Oh, so with that, we are back.
Oh, jeez.
Welcome back to part 3, everybody.
Thank you guys for joining us on the streets. Part 3.
I'm just now remembering, too, that these are also released as individual parts, so that would be a wonderful cold
episode
opening.
133. My name is Donovan.
I'm Colin.
And we are happy to have you here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, for sticking with us. You've been watching us here on our YouTube at Salt of the Streets. We also have our Patreon and our Instagram, everything at Salt of the Streets. Go to our Patreon, sign up. Help us make more better content just like this. We also have the newsletters that come out on the last day of every month. We have the review preview that comes out on the first day of every month. We have the beer shows. We have all kinds of wonderful content. Go there, sign up. Help us make more better content. Like, subscribe, and comment on this video. This particular segment is brought to you by Leggings and Aprons Bakery. And then JP Bakery. That's what it is.
JP Bakery.
Yes, thank you very much. And
Leggings and Aprons on Instagram.
Yes.
But it's for JP Bakery.
For JP Bakery, yep. It's all going to get
Just
switched over
fucking
once
fire,
she's
by the
into
way.
the new facility.
It's all just so good. I got to get up on my my bagel game because we're going to be bartering between bagels and English muffs, and I need some of those because I actually thought about making some English muffins the other day, and I was like, that would be sacrilegious. I can't do that. To JP Bakery.
And the English muffins ship well. So.
Yeah, and I feel like my bagels will ship well. I'm going to bring a little New York style water.
100%.
You know, boiled to the bagels, and then we'll do a little bartering like that.
Yep.
That'll be good.
I like it.
I was going to make a point real quick. The Patreon, part of the newsletters. I'm writing a book, and I am releasing it a chapter, more or less a condensed chapter at a time, through our newsletter, and the first chapter and a half is out right now on our Patreon. It is the part 1. I'm writing a book on my thoughts and views on anarchism, and so I do a think piece on one, and then I do kind of a personal postscript as the second half of the chapter. And if you're interested in that, that is also right there through our newsletter on Patreon. So make sure to get over to Salt the Streets Patreon and support us at $5 or more, and you can get all of that.
That's right.
Boom.
Okay, so with that, we're going to kind of continue on our conversation about midterms and stuff like that. So, what do you want to start with here?
I want to start off with
like that, so
let's do this because
you lead us now. You lead us. Lead me when I want to be led.
Exactly. I've been making a lot of mentions in the last part about getting to this Mayorkas clip, right? And this is, I think, feeding into a lot of how people feel about going into the midterms, maybe part of why the stakes are so high and stuff like this. And so I'm going to pull this clip up, and we're going to kind of let Mayorkas speak for himself. Actually, we're going to start with the VP, because those are pretty
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, the VP Kamala Harris did a sit down with Chuck Todd, and fucking, I know what it is now. It's the buttons on the mouse that I had to change the cameras. But I'm gonna fucking kill somebody. There it is. But yeah, she did a sit down with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press on the anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, God.
And that's where these statements were made. A lot of this 9/11 talk that was done during the anniversary with all these high-ranking political officials were done, and they talked about, like, we were attacked by, a foreign terrorist group and foreign threats, and now, but there's all these domestic threats,
Drawing a comparison between 9/11 and January 6th.
And not even, it's everything that stemmed from Jan 6. Anybody that is anti-government or anybody against their grain, going in the veins of fucking Joe Biden's authoritarian speech, a couple of weeks ago. Like, it's right there, and they're all talking about it. So I'm going to attempt to pull this clip up again. I just backed out of it. I think this is the one where it is. Well, no, because he starts immediately talking about fucking ads, about 9/11. That's not the one. For fuck's sakes, people.
Foreign heads of state. What we have been seeing in terms of the attacks from against it.
I lost that one. Let's go to Chuck Todd. Cue up the question there, Chuck, and then we'll let VP speak for herself.
And we don't compare the two in the oath.
Vice President Harris, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good to be with you, Chuck.
Let me start with, look, we're at the 21st marking, if you will, of the September 11th attacks.
Yeah.
This was a foreign terrorists attacking our democracy, attacking this country.
Yep.
We're now, as a nation, battling a threat from within. Is the threat equal or greater than what we faced after 9/11?
Get the fuck out.
Word.
That's an interesting question. I have held.
Before she goes on to say absolutely nothing
that was the question.
That's the question. The previous clip that the previous clip that I had queued up was his kind of introduction to his interview, and he makes this thing about September 11th, and he's, we were attacked by foreign terrorists, but now we're being affected by domestic terrorism, and then they go into the interview. So that was really the first part of that clip that got lost because I hit the fucking back button.
Held many elected offices as district attorney, attorney general, senator, now vice president, and there's an oath that we always take, which is to defend and uphold our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And we don't compare the two in the oath, but we know they both can exist, and we must defend against it. But the fact is, having served, for example, on the Senate Intelligence Committee and now as vice president, I can tell you the nature of a domestic threat versus a foreign threat, they're very different. No, each are dangerous and extremely harmful, but they're different. When I think about it, I think that, when I was on the Senate Intelligence Committee, that was actually my favorite committee.
She's real good at this job.
The reason is, when we walk through the doors, each of us, Republicans, Democrats, Independents.
Which one is worse?
When we walk through the door of the SCIF, that secure room, press could not come in.
Right.
No cameras, no public, just us.
Just us.
People would take off their jackets. They'd roll up their...
All right, I'm going to stop that one there because that's when she starts to get into this. Well, that's what we really need. We just need people to be Americans again. We don't need this, that, and the other thing. But she's already laid it out. She's talking about, just like Chuck Todd queued her up to say, like, obviously the focus is on now this internal domestic threat. And when this is put out on fucking Meet the Press, on NBC, primetime television, this is the message people are getting going into midterms. They're getting this message. On the anniversary of 9/11, if you are old enough to have been emotionally impacted by that, you're going to hear that, and your thinking is going to be affected by now all these public officials coming out and now comparing what happened 21 years ago to what is currently happening today from within. And if that doesn't get people affected and fired up to go out and vote one way or the other, it adds to the narrative. You're building up those what do we call them before, the uninformed voters and stuff like that. They're voting against MAGA now, ultra MAGA. Now these people are domestic terrorists. The narrative is building against anybody that's against the establishment.
Okay, so
was making the rounds.
So just under 3,000 people died on 9/11.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then just under 2,000 soldiers died in the war subsequently.
Word.
Right? So
you can't compare them like this. The logic doesn't make sense.
There was one person who was shot by the federal government on January 6th, and 5 people who died in the aftermath. 4 people. I think it's 5 combined.
Yeah.
Less than 10.
All of which died of natural causes.
So
the one person that was murdered by the feds and the cop that was totally exonerated, there was no investigation, no nothing. He had 0 consequences from that. Yes.
And and when she's saying stuff like this, because what happened after 9/11 was that almost 2,000 soldiers died. When you say things like that, it makes it sound like that's what's going to happen again after January 6th, right?
Yeah.
That, to me, and this is just what my perception of it. I'm not saying this is what she's saying. This is how it feels to me. With all of the talk of civil war from both sides of the aisle, for a while it was just like Tim Pool and people like that were like, I'm telling you this shit's happening, right? And then there was some more of the right that was like, maybe we should do that. People like Michael Mouse that was like, maybe instead of that we should just civil divorce, we should just decide to not do this anymore. Now the left is like, it's already happening. Actually, the civil war is already happening. It's just not super crazy yet.
Yeah.
It feels feels like that's what she's saying. It's
And
like,
that's my
this
point.
is what this is going to turn into, you know, is we're going to have to go into all the spying. We're going to have to get into active combat. Like, it's going to get really bad. You know, that's what it feels like she's saying, which feels ultra dark. And I'm not trying to just talk about my feelings, you know, so it feels like this, it feels like this. That sounds ultra dark messaging from the vice president of the United States, who, if they had their way, would be the president next, but they can't sell that. They can't sell it.
Yeah.
So
she's got to do it by default if he
and
dies.
she's
or something.
young. She's not done in politics. When she's done in office, she's not done.
Yeah. She looks older than she is.
She's relatively young.
Yes, and that
you know,
that is really the point, though, right? Is because the people that are intaking this, right? This all affects the midterms. People hear this on a day where they're emotionally, may or may not be that emotionally tied to 9/11 anymore, depending on who's watching, of course. But obviously, most of the people watching this corporate press fucking media, watching Meet the Press, are going to be of an older generation who have that attachment.
Yeah.
They're building up this narrative. They're adding to that weight when it comes to the midterms. And then if all of a sudden they've been funding all of this money to all these MAGA Republicans in the primaries, and now they're going to look at the ballot and they see the MAGA Republican up against this Democratic fucking establishment shill, it's only going to go one way. This is all built towards securing their power as they go through the midterms, because they can't do it off the shit show that we all are living through right now. We all see with our own two eyes. But if this is your reality and you're watching this shit and this is where you get your information, you're adopting that narrative.
right?
You're going to believe that these people are fucking domestic terrorists, that we're domestic terrorists. And you're going to do everything in your power to vote against that. And you're going to talk about it. And you're going to be with your friends, the whole 9 yards. That's why this is important. She tiptoes around. She doesn't have to say it outright. By simply putting it out there and, well, we don't have to compare the two. You know, we can't think of them the same way. But it is a problem and it is scary. You're automatically thinking about the people that Joe Biden himself, the day after January 6th, called domestic terrorists. He said, do not call them protesters. He said, they are domestic terrorists.
Right. So it's not going to look the same, but it's the same type of threat.
Yes.
And you would have to be, to your point, I'm 27, right? You'd have to be younger than me to not remember 9/11 at all. I was in the first grade when it happened. So you'd have to be younger than me to not remember it at all. I barely remember the event. I remember the event happening. I remember watching it. I remember the day. It's the subsequent events that stick with me more, because I grew up through the global war on terror. I was raised in that time of people's brothers and sisters and dads being sent over, right?
Yep.
So dads and moms, right?
Everybody
being sent over, especially
contractors,
especially in a
everything.
town like this. You know, people's families are being sent all the time. So you'd have to be younger than me to not remember it. And if you're younger than me, you're not, to your point, like I said, you're not getting your news from this. And if you're younger than me, then you already think the Republicans are racist. You already think that they're all of these terrible things, that they're domestic terrorists. You already think, you know, the Boog Boys and the whoever's, you know, all the everything, the Proud Boys, all those guys.
I was like,
what
are their names?
Yeah.
Again? Fuck William Wallace. Yep, that's right, man. You were in the Navy. You fought the global war on terror.
You already believe that those people are a threat to democracy, potentially greater than 9/11, because you don't, potentially greater than the subsequent war on terror, because you don't believe in that anyway. You think that was bullshit, that war was nonsense, but you've seen this. You watched January 6th. You've seen Donald Trump. You've watched the speeches. You've heard what he said. You saw what he said in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yep.
I heard it with my own ears, right? So you don't have to be, this is fucked up.
And I would be,
that's darker than
when
Tim
I try
Pool
to
saying,
equate
I'm
this.
scared there's going to be a civil war.
Word.
Like that, this is darker than
And that's
that.
really what this is, right? That's because I equate this to midterms, because we're talking about the midterms, because this does affect the midterms.
100%.
But this is the full-on establishment adoption of the fact that there is going to be some form of civil conflict, and they are drawing the lines right here. And if you thought that was bad, you wait until you hear our head of the Department of Homeland Security talk, when he talks about this. And I'm going to play the whole first part of this clip because you need to understand how they go from 9/11 to now. And he gets real blatant about it. And Deborah, he said, her words are totally offensive. You fucking wait. Because she dances around it. Mayorkas doesn't. He goes right into it. It's dark.
Before you play this, you were talking about this feeding into the election, right?
Yeah.
And this, I think, speaks also to why, again, that tie between the Democratic establishment, the Uniparty, and corporate media, right? The focus on MAGA Republicans and ultra MAGA domestic terrorists. So when you're seeing people around the country, representatives in all these races, people who are winning, Republicans who are winning, who are MAGA Republicans, it's just further underlining that threat to democracy.
Yeah. You remember
That they're being elected now. It's not just people. It's not just social media anymore. It's not just crazy domestic violence on social media, because now
they're being elected in the seats of power.
By the time these people, the MAGA Republicans, quote unquote, that are winning the Republican office, by the time they're in office, right? Whoever wins is in office, and the stories about the messages from Facebook being shared with the FBI, by the time that story is mainstream, they're going to say, good, we need to, because the MAGA Republicans are in office now. They're not just sharing online messages. It's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Jew space lasers. Now they're in office, and it's not just one or two of them. It's dozens of them.
They're in state level. They're
in federal level representative offices.
They're running the elections. They're the what is it? The attorney, Secretary of State.
Yep.
You know, they're the ones running the elections, of course. One final point before we let Mayorkas dig his own grave here. Tim Pool talked about it a little bit, but it made the rounds on Twitter. Kathy Griffin, the failed comedian Kathy Griffin.
Okay.
She
with the Donald Trump head.
With her Donald Trump head. She had recently sent out a tweet, right, that said, it's this simple. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's this simple. If Democrats win, there will be a civil war. If Republicans win, everything will be fine. Trying to point...
Republicans win? Or no? Oh.
That's what she said.
Okay.
Pointing... And she later had to come out and say, like, if the Democrats win, the Republicans will start a civil war. Or if the Democrats win, the Republicans will start a civil war. If the Republicans win, then they have the power. That's not at all. Obviously, she was stepping it back, but this is what they're talking about here. If these people remain in power, DHS Secretary Mayorkas will explain to you how dangerous it will be when these people do take power, and why it is that side will potentially start violence, because you cannot let domestic terrorists take over the country.
Now I see why you wanted to end last time with a white pill, is because this is
dark as fuck,
this
dude.
Is rough.
Yeah. So let's start this one here. I hate this. Is like Jeff Bezos if he was a politician.
He looks like a
way.
lizard, bro. He looks like a lizard person.
Hashtag lizard people.
Yeah, 100%.
Welcome back to the Sunday Show.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
So, Secretary
It's
Mayorkas,
fucking 2022. Why is there still a 2-second lag in audio in 2022?
Because they're still using 1960s technology.
Get the fuck out of here.
I
Give
know.
him a cell phone. Give him a cell phone and an iPhone. I'll give him an AirPod, because it will be quicker. There won't be a delay.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
If Commentary Magazine podcast can have a long distance show while everybody's on a fucking Zoom call, or people can
What is happening?
do a fucking podcast next to next with Michael Malice on their iPhone and their earbud, and there's no delay.
What is happening?
This is the fucking corporate
I'm sorry.
press.
Go
So let's
ahead.
do it.
We will listen to it now.
how are you and the Department of Homeland Security reflecting on this 21st anniversary of the 9/11 attacks?
Jonathan, we're very committed to honoring and commemorating the lives that were lost on 9/11 and in the days, weeks, and months following as a result of injuries and illnesses suffered on that day. We commemorate those lives on days like this, but we also commemorate and honor those lives through the work that we do every single day around this country and around the world
textbook.
to keep the American people safe and secure.
But just wait.
The Department of Homeland Security was formed in the wake of the September 11th attacks. How has it evolved since then to safeguard the U.S. from foreign threats?
Pause button. Remember that. He does not ask this question, but Mayorkas will get there. He will walk himself to this point. He stops at foreign threats.
Jonathan, the threat landscape has evolved considerably over the last 20 years. You know, back when 9/11 occurred, in those years, we were very focused on the foreign terrorist, the individual who sought to do us severe harm, to enter the United States and do us harm. It then evolved. We began to be more and more concerned about the individual already resident in the United States, radicalized by a foreign terrorist ideology. Now we are seeing an emerging threat, of course, over the last several years, of the domestic violent extremist, the individual here in the United States radicalized to violence by a foreign terrorist ideology, but also an ideology of hate, anti-government sentiment, false narratives propagated on online platforms, even personal grievances. The threat landscape has evolved. 20 years ago, uppermost in our minds was not the cybersecurity threat, the threat of cyber criminals or foreign adversaries.
Well, he said it already. That's it, man. It's anti-government sentiment, and false narrative, personal grievances.
That's what the terroristic threat is.
That's what the new terroristic. That's how it's evolved from 9/11. It's anybody that doesn't agree with us.
Wait. Okay, so let me tie that to, right? We talked about when the FBI had their list of domestic violent extremist things leaked. Mm-hmm. One of those things was Mike Glover's organization, who fucking fought in the special forces on the global war on terror. So you're going to tell me, DHS, Mayorkas is going to tell me, he's going to tell us that Mike Glover, who, if I remember correctly, was an Army Ranger.
I believe so.
If I remember correctly, I believe he was an Army Ranger, right?
At least that badass.
Yep. He definitely in the special forces, right? So the organization that he helps run to help Americans be prepared is a domestic violent extremist group that grew out of 9/11, even though he fought the global war on terror that stemmed from 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because now that
the guy with the American flag on his hat
that has collided with what we have newly deemed the American flag to stand for. I mean, the Betsy Ross flag is a symbol of domestic violent extremism. The Gadsden flag is a symbol of domestic violent extremism. What they're saying is that if you are not on their side, are a domestic threat on the anniversary of 9/11.
That needs to be handled by the DHS.
Yes. Homeland Security. This is fucking Patriot Act. This is George Bush and fucking homeboy Cheney. This is what it has evolved
dudes are fascists,
into,
right? Them dudes are fascists.
Them dudes are fascists.
Fuck.
Hashtag them dudes were fascists.
Wow.
And they are still fascists. And now we're all fascists, according to them, even though they're fascists. So, yeah, things are looking up, man. DHS is coming after you. The vice president is calling you domestic terrorism. Things are looking good going into midterms, man. That was a week ago. That was less than a week ago. That was less than 7 days ago that he talked about that on the Sunday morning show on NBC. How many millions of people saw that?
Well,
a lot. Well, I mean, not that many, thank God. They fucking suck, but yeah, no, that's the narrative. That's what they're doing. You know, I got a little clip in here from Hillary Clinton.
What the fuck?
Dave Rubin showed, but really, if you're the type of person that's watching Meet the Press and you're watching the Sunday morning show on NBC, you've already seen the Hillary Clinton conversation, and it's nowhere near as bad as Mayorkas is, but it's not good, man. It is not fucking good. And if that doesn't For one, if that doesn't get you fired up to get out to the goddamn polls and pretend like this thing actually matters, I don't know what does. Like I said before, I think it was at the end of part 1. Now is the time to be undeniable. Joe Rogan talks about this when he's talking about comedy and shit. But now, this is it, dude. This is it. If you want to stop that, these people need to be removed from power. And as of right now, without venturing into the realm of extrajudicial actions, this is the only way to do it. This is the system right now. You gotta get these people out of fucking power, and the only way to do that is to get these fucking MAGA Republicans into office. Get people that do not run on a campaign of hating you into office. People that do not call you a domestic violent extremist and put you on a fucking list in some alphabet soup agency to come after you with a fucking gun.
Because what he's just described is actual fascism, right? So the left throws around the term fascism all the time, but fascism is authoritarian control generally attributed to the right that is enforced with violence, right? That's what fascism is. This is left-wing fascism. He's the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is the law enforcement, one of the law enforcement wings of the federal government. That is what they are, the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. They have the ability to arrest you and detain you for being a terrorist for an undetermined amount of time. So
there's nothing to stop them from sending you to Gitmo.
This is actual fascism. That's actual dictionary definition leftist fascism. With no question, right? They call Donald Trump a fascist all the time. I've never seen him strike anybody. I've never seen him lock anybody up for his own weird political reasons. I've never seen him attack anybody for his own weird political reasons. So I would...
This is coming from the dude who ran on like a campaign message of lock her up, and then when he was in office, guess what he didn't do?
It.
He didn't lock her up. The minute they got power, they've done nothing but try to lock him up. They've hemmed up 40 plus of his fucking closest associates at this point. They're going after the My Pillow guy. I mean, everybody. They're going after all of his associates. This is fucking dark, dude. This is not just... But the only way they can continue to do this, we have a say in whether they can continue to do this. They're going to continue in some fashion. The deep state is not going to go away, obviously. No. But there are individuals that can be removed through... All you got to do is take this little fucking piece of paper and put it in a box. That's all you got to do, man. That's all you got to do. Maybe you go tell your friends about it. That's all you got to do. That's all you got. Nobody's got to pick up a fucking gun. Nobody's got to do anything stupid. Nobody's got to go down and you don't even have to go to a fucking protest.
It'll likely work in the opposite if you pick up a gun and try and do something violent.
Yeah, that's what they want you to do.
That's why Biden made that whole Dark Brandon speech.
Exactly. They're trying to get people to come out and do that.
Invoke something to make you upset.
They listen to him, dude. He wants that to happen, so they can smash his boot down on it.
Fulfilling the prophecy that Mayork has just laid out, that this is where it's evolved to. And then when they see that, right now, all they have are these bullshit examples, this fucking Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping thing where they're like, oh shit, there were like 3 FBI guys that were in there, so we're just not going to charge these dudes. We fucked up, you know?
Yep.
All they have is shit like that. That's not good. Yep. Now they're just trying to sow discord so they can try and get something organic to foment itself. That's
and like you said, that seems like the logical next step. Because what does he do? He starts at 9/11, foreign terrorists, and he goes, okay. And we remember this too, like the domestic terrorist, right? Where they were
bombing, they were getting nightclub,
they were getting ISIS videos online and becoming, radicalized within. And then he took the next step to say, well, now we have this, domestic violent extremist. This is the MAGA folks. This is the people that tried to overthrow the democracy. Exactly. It's the same rhetoric. It's all coming after you, man. It's all coming after you.
All of us.
Yeah. It's all, that's what it really is. It's not just you or them. It's all of them.
Anybody,
even the fucking sheeple that are, even the sheeple that think that they're on their side, all they are is fucking, they're just pawns in their game, man. They will control them just as much as they're going to throw us in the gulag at best. It's not good, dude. It's not good, but you have a chance right now. We all have a chance to stop this. I'm anarchist 101, man. I'm into it. I recognize that I don't live under that system right now, and the system we live in right now gives you one vote. You got to be smart about that when it comes to midterms. You got to be smart about this, because if it's gotten this bad in 2 years, envision where we're at in another 2 when we're having a presidential conversation.
Joseph's question, okay, what if the vote doesn't go your way midterm? Then the next presidential election doesn't go your way.
And we need to reassess the situation right now. That's all I'm looking at right now is this, if we're where we're at. I mean,
this is what we can do right now.
This is what we can do right now. And at that point, I don't know, it's an ever-evolving landscape, as Kamala Harris says, obviously. But
you can only react to the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, the last thing you need to do is to try to take a step too far.
But you should prepare for the future.
100%.
You should. This is the way that you should react now, but you should prepare for the future.
You should. Yeah, we should have been preparing.
When is a tyrannical government supposed to be addressed? I
don't
agree
know.
with you.
Yeah.
The answer.
It's never really a good time.
Would be at people's doors, right? And my answer would harken back to last week or last episode. You here for that, Justin? We were talking about. We played that video for Mr. Guns and Gear.
Mm-hmm.
The ATF showing up at people's house, right? People are not being. And I'm not trying to draw too fine of a line, but you have to when you're talking about active combat with the federal government, right? The line is when people are being actually hemmed up for purely political purposes, right? And
not the governmental actors,
right?
Because that's what we're seeing now. Is the people? It's all being played on their level right now, and that's not necessarily. I mean, when it comes to the ATF coming to your door, that's another story altogether, and that's when you take charge.
The line for me. That would be my answer for you.
Yeah,
would be at the door. So that's why I would prepare to that end. This is something that we've talked about. I'm not trying to trail too far off. You guys are here. You're already fucking domestic violent extremists anyway. But develop a
You're
network.
on the list.
Tim says there is no answer. I would say read the Constitution because your door is too late. And I can't. Everyone has to define where their own line is. So that would be my answer. And maybe my door is too late. That's probably true. So that's why I'm saying when people are being hemmed up, if you're the first guy, that's unfortunate. I don't know. No one can predict when the first person is going to be the first political prisoner is taken to the gulag. No one knows when that's going to be. It just happens.
Well, and realistically, when the people show up at your door, we've seen it more than once at this point. There's lots of videos of these, especially like the ATF people coming in to try to enforce some bullshit on you.
Yeah.
Your constitutional rights still stand with them. They won't go far.
When the Constitution is being violated.
When you stand at your Constitution at the door and say, no, get the fuck out of here without a warrant. They cannot do anything more than that. And they aren't doing anything more than that.
But
They're trying. They are trying.
But when they do,
like I said, that's not going to be, you're essentially not going to have a choice at that point, and it's not going to be up to you. They're going to be willing to make the first step. If you are going to refuse to open the door for them, if they decide to open the door themselves, they've made the choice.
Yeah. He says there already are, January 6th. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know, man. All I know is it's dark, and that's the thing. That's why I'm like, when it comes to, I gotta hold on to hope. You gotta hold on to the hope that there is. If you're undeniable at the polls, that if we exhaust that option, I don't know where it goes from there. But that's, you don't want to skip a step. You don't want to skip a step. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. It seems. You can conceptualize it as much as you want, but the reality of that situation is so dark that nobody can even pretend to understand what that's going to look like. So the logical next step is just You know, be undeniable at the ballot box.
And I'm not sure, Joseph, I'm not sure that a leader is the answer. I don't think that there is, I think it's like Dave Smith has said, like, I don't think there's a demagogic figure that will, that will arise, that will lead us to the end. Because the last person I can think of that got into office that was trying to take the government apart, that was trying to take the executive branch apart, got shot in the fucking head in Dallas. They set him up in a situation where he was going to be open in a car with no fucking roof on it, and someone shot him in the face. So I don't think a leader is the answer. I think individuals that come together collectively are the answer. I think your question as to when that happens is probably the most poignant one. And I apologize as the host of this show that I don't have a direct answer for it. We do have political prisoners in this country, and I can't even tell you for certain that their constitutional rights are not being violated, because the reasons that they're being held in prison in solitary confinement for undetermined periods of time is
we've seen
is horrific to say the least. So,
because we've seen the cases that have been tried and the people that have had actual charges filed against them, and it's been ruled in the court of law, and they're misdemeanor level charges every single time. But the people that aren't
charges,
they are, but the people that aren't being charged yet are still being
just held.
The concept of like the leadership concept, right, is the day you need a leader that's another level in my mind. When you require a leader to lead that charge, I think is a problem, because I think there are multiple leaders in this space now. There are multiple leaders that get behind different groups of people that are indeed fighting for similar liberty-centered values. There are the people like the Dave Smiths that are just, he's got his own tact. There's people like Tim Pool that are leading a different tact, right? But it's all essentially loosely aligned along the road of freedom, if you will. The leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
And I think that is a much better coalition than a single leader being required that would require some kind of large if you get to that point, you've already lost a step. But we are a nation of individuals. We're supposed to be a nation of individualists, and it only takes a large enough group of individuals to say fuck off, we're not doing this anymore. That seems like, I don't know, it seems like conceptually it seems very conceptual, but you got to have that mindset, because otherwise you start seeking that singular figure that more or less doesn't exist, because no human could actually personify that.
And that's what liberty is about anyway, especially if you're talking about liberty, individual liberty for people in the country. You're talking about people pushing back against the government for their own rights because they believe it is best for the collective, because we're all decided we want to live here together, no matter what Jake Lyons thinks. We've all decided we want to live here together. So
I am alive,
and that's why the individuals are the answer.
Yes, yeah. Just pray that your vote still counts, and you have to at this point.
It's a faith-based system.
That's why that's been my major bugaboo about the Stop the Steal general narrative, and arguably why the Senate was lost at that point. Because the narrative that your vote doesn't count
doesn't help you win votes.
It doesn't help you win votes, exactly. And if the minute that your vote actually doesn't matter, that's, like I said, we're at another realm there. I think what really happened in that last election is, especially with the fortification article about that, I mean, all it really did was paint a picture for a lot of people that thought voting happened a different way, that thought there wasn't these exponential levels of corruption that take place.
Right.
That's been happening for a long time. That has been happening for a long time. The only difference now is we have a different perspective on it. We can see much clearer today than we ever did before. And it's happened It's happened on both sides, but realistically, it's only been happening one way, obviously, because you can tell by who ends up in power over a long period of time that this uniparty of people that think essentially the same way about control and authoritarianism and all this stuff, that's all gone that way, one way or the other. But if we still have any say at all, until it becomes legitimately illegitimate, you still got to stick with the same game, because that's the game we're all playing at this point, whether it's the right game or the wrong game.
These are the rules we're still living under right now.
Indeed. I want to live under an anarchist utopian as much as the next person. Why? Because I think I can fend for myself better than my neighbors can.
But until these rules are called off.
Indeed. I live under this system. And you got to play the rules of the game. What do polls show? Do the citizens at large believe there is an election integrity?
And hold on, before we answer that, to your point, and if you don't believe in the system, right, it's fine.
It's fine.
But if you choose not to take part, it doesn't benefit you not to take part, even if you don't believe in it.
Yes.
It only takes away from anything.
I believe it's a very invalid institution, but I still take part in it because it's the only way I can participate, essentially. You know, like, I understand that.
That's what
Like,
they
how do you
say.
think I feel? If we're talking about, your vote doesn't count, how do you think I fucking feel? I don't believe any of these motherfuckers have any authority over me at all. And I wholeheartedly believe that with all my soul. What am I to do? What, am I just supposed to sit here and wallow, in misery and nihilism? I can only do the best I can. I can recognize also, I could take solace in the fact that I am indeed an American, born in America, and it's much better to be born here and live under this system than it probably was to be born in, like, Sudan. That's a good deal. I could take that and run with it. I have the freedom to argue for anarchy for now. That's a plus. Right now, I can have the freedom to tell everybody to go vote for people that don't fucking hate you. That's a good deal. That is a good deal, and you should do that, because that's where we're at right now. The only way we can make a better system at this point without losing everything in the process is to participate in the system the best we can, whether I like it or not. That's just the way it is.
Joseph says, without a true leader you've chosen at your door, one at a time is how they marched to Auschwitz. And I understand the sentiment, but I don't even...
And we can have leaders,
But again,
man,
even
leaders.
to your point, if we use that example, if the Jews had a leader, that would not have stopped them from being marched to Auschwitz. That's not the answer in that example. It's for them to all have a leader that's telling them the Germans are going to fucking round you up and take you, because they still took their guns, they still did all that shit. That's not...
And a lot of people left.
So that's not... I don't think that is the... like I said, I understand your sentiment, but I don't think that's the answer. I think that's why my advice would be to prepare. And what I was getting at earlier is, we've talked about on this before, to prepare as best as you can. No one knows what's going to happen, so all you can do is prepare the best that you can. Find a group of people that you trust and that you can have communication with, so that if you know that you need some type of help, you're not alone.
Yeah. And be a leader in your own right. Be a leader in your own right by doing the best that you can for your own people.
And if this system is illegitimate, then a leader to try and adjust that, I don't think is the answer. In that case, the answer is a new system. And again, which I don't think we disagree with you on.
Yeah.
But
the way is not the means, I think.
Which is also generally why we don't discuss this, because that's not the headspace that we're operating in. This is the reality of the country that we live in.
Yeah. I wrote a piece for our Patreon way back in the day, Salt Streets Patreon. Make sure you go subscribe. You can read it. Yeah. One of the earlier ones that I wrote a piece on, Ron DeSantis will not save this country. It's because I don't believe in this singular leader being an answer. And and that was back when the fucking temperature was way down, man. I'm like, and because it's not. It's really not. It's up to leaders, plural, are necessary, I think, but leaders need to be plural. You need to have multiple people arguing for the same thing, and whether I agree wholeheartedly with their entire message or not, that there's a lot of leaders coming through in this kind of MAGA uprising that's coming through. There's a lot of people arguing. Like Carrie Lake's, one of her big things is like school choice. That's a huge deal, man. If you can have a governor of a state that one of her fucking boners is school choice, that is a really good deal, man. You got a 25-year-old gal from New Hampshire that just won a primary. If she can run, I don't even know what her fucking message is, to be perfectly honest. She's just young and attractive and MAGA. But, you know, if you can get those people in there that'll argue for different aspects of the whole picture, man, you bring more people on board. You have multiple leaders. The country's too goddamn big to have one leader. We've been probably talking about that for a while. The idea that a singular president should be the dude is weird. That's why we have this constitutional republic and this makeup of the different states and all this stuff, and you got the singular guy who he's not supposed to be. You know, the popular vote for the president is a weird concept because he shouldn't be he's not like the dictator, man. He's not the king. It's not the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't work like that. It was too goddamn big. You need multiple leaders. You need people like Ron DeSantis in Florida that are arguing for people like that support his ideas. You need people like Kari Lake that are, you know, trying to rise up and take power in a state that, you know, that generally believes in those concepts. You need all these different things. And you also need, unfortunately, you need pieces of shit like Gavin Newsom to rise up to power through corrupt processes and so on and so forth to show other people that that's bad, man. You don't want that. Those are gross. You know, these ideas are bad ideas. You see them fail. You watch them rise up. You see the fucking energy problems we may or may not get to at some point in the show, that breaking point segment, that just lead to bad ideas essentially under the that saying that like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, the green ideology, this green energy thing it's a road to hell paved with good intentions. They all seem like good ideas, but they're bad. And some of the most scary ideas presented by the media, like school choice, seem to be good ideas. And you need these multiple leaders to come up for a broader coalition of good ideas to come together so that we can all find out what's good for everybody. Because we're all individuals, and at the end of the day, we should all be trying to intake as many ideas as possible so that we can filter through all that shit and make our own choices about how we want to best pursue our own path to liberty.
Right.
I think I tried to tie that up too early, but I just don't think the singular leader concept is a good idea, man. It's just, I get the concept, but I don't think that's the path. The path is multiple leaders.
We're of the mindset, the shared mindset that, and we agree with you as far as the elections go. This type of shit. This system is illegitimate. We agree with you,
100%.
which is why we host this show, doing our best to advocate and convince people that individualism and individual liberty and freedom is the true path, right?
The only way.
The more people that are convinced of this, which is also why we ask you guys to share the show and do things like that, because the more people that are convinced of this, the more real and tangible the illegitimacy of this system becomes, right? This system is real and it's existing. It's the one that we exist in now because enough people are believing in it and giving it legitimacy. And so there is an argument that not voting is an answer to that, but only if you have enough people not voting. And I believe, and I think Colin would agree, at this point in time, it is easier to convince people to vote in a way that will behoove them than to collectively not vote. It's not the way that people's brains are working. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be convincing people of that, right? Because, again, I think there is an argument to be made for that, but I believe the stronger argument is to your favor, that this is the system that we are existing in right now. And we can exist in this system and also advocate for something better. And I don't think that an individual leader is a better system than the system that we have now of multiple leaders that work collectively with one individual who leads one branch. I don't think one guy is the answer to that.
No.
I think that people who are collectively deciding what they want is the answer. But the answer within that is all of those people collectively deciding that individual freedom and liberty is the answer, which is, again, like I said, why we are hosting this show, to convince people that this is the answer. And this is why this is just a topic we're doing today, which is why we don't usually cover traditional politics like this, because the main message of the show, when we wrap up the second and third part every single time with this is why this pertains to your liberty and freedom, because that's the point of the show, right? These are the things that is happening on the everyday, and this is why it matters to your liberty and freedom. That's why this Mayorkas thing matters, because that is directly impacting your individual liberty and freedom. But if people don't recognize that, if people don't see what is happening and feel the threat as an individual, then nothing will happen. And that I think is your point of people being at their door feeling the threat. But you have to feel it before they get to your door. And that I think is the point, right?
Yeah.
But if we can't get people to feel that because they aren't thinking from an individualistic standpoint, they're never going to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to your earlier point in one of the earlier segments, is the numbers game aspect of it. You know, when I talk about like the possibility of we have the numbers, and we don't, the numbers aren't there yet. You know, if we did have the numbers, obviously I think we'd have the power at that point.
Right.
So then this wouldn't even really be a conversation. But if you don't have the numbers, what you have is the idea. You have that idea in individualism and in liberty and in freedom and being able to proselytize that. And that is your greatest weapon, is to be able to explain to people the powers that come with liberty and freedom. And no single leader will do that better than you living out those principles. That's the best way. And that's ultimately, you know, when I say you're the leader, be the leader, live those principles, proselytize freedom and liberty, do those things, because they're very convincing. When you take up that mantle to pursue a life lived under liberty and freedom and respect for people's rights, I mean, it's a very convincing argument when you really get down to it. It's not that hard to sell it to people, man. It's really not, because everybody wants to do their own shit. Like, it's a very easy sell. And if you can live your life that way, it's a really easy sell to your friends, to your family. And if that can't spread faster than this corporate press bullshit, I don't know what can. Yeah. That's where the truth lies. Yeah. That's where the future is, right there.
And at the end of it, Joseph, I like I said, I agree with you. Yes, when they're at your door, it is too late for you, and that's why my point to that was that when they're at your door, a leader will not save you. The only hope that you have, and this is when they're at your door, is a fatalistic last final scenario, right? That is the end.
That's nihilism,
right? So, and I don't blame you for going there, but the only solution I have to that is having some way. A true leader will tell the masses that the time has come before they have made it to your door, and I don't know that is the case, because there isn't one person that anybody trusts or will listen to. I think that's where the multiple people who are seeing the same thing is going to be the way to go, because
if all the individuals live that way,
there aren't going to be a majority of the country who like the way that Colin and I talk. And that's just an example. I'm not saying we're the guys, but we're not saying we're the guys, but just as an example, you can use Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anybody you want as an example. You can't get over 50% of the country that likes the way that dude operates. One leader is not the answer. You need a message that reigns true to individuals so they understand. You need a collective understanding that we are all at risk, which is why our message is that the true threat here is the government. It is not this government, is not this administration. It is this power exists in the government. Once this precedent exists, it doesn't matter who the leader is. It could be anybody who is at risk. That is why the individual is the answer, right? When they're at your door, like I said, that's the nihilistic, not even nihilistic. That's the end. That's why my only solution to that is having some type of plan for when they are at your door. You have people you can call to try and deal with that. That's my answer to that, because that's the end. At that point, you need to be prepared for the end, because you're either going to the fucking gulag or you're dying, and I would rather die in a shootout at my house than go to the gulag. That's my answer to that. A leader won't save you when they're at your door. You just said that. When they're at your door, it's too late. One person isn't going to convince half the country or the majority of the country, because that portion of the government is a small minority of this country. They're not even 1 million people. It's a small minority who are in power and control here, and we all know that. So
Lindsey Graham is the same as Kamala Harris, is the same as all these people that are all in power that are all trying to do the same exact thing to you.
that is it. And like Colin said, we don't know what enough is. We don't know what that number is. This portion of the country, of America, that is controlling things, that is deciding how this goes, is a ridiculously small minority. So I know I'm not going to continue to go back and forth about this point. I understand the point that you're making. I don't think that
singular
one
leader
person should be in control of a majority of people. I don't think that is the answer. I don't think an authoritarian, monarchistic control of people is the way to go. That is why the message of this show is individual freedom and liberty, because that is the answer. People coming together by themselves, deciding they want to come together, whether it's under one message or multiple people or what the fuck ever, people still have to decide that is what they want for themselves.
Yep.
That, at the end of the day, is the answer. You have to decide you want to listen to somebody. You have to decide. The individual is the answer. So
there's no such thing as a benevolent dictator that will come and save the world.
No, that doesn't
period.
exist.
Doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
The Romans tried it, didn't work out so well. It ended in empire.
No, you have to decide that is what you want.
If you want empire, you could do that.
So
if that's what you want, if you want authoritarian control,
and
a single leader is the way.
Even to extend that point, that person then has to decide they don't want to become a dictator. The individual has to decide. Even if we all collectively somehow, it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. Even if we do come together under one person's message, we all decide to do that, right? Or enough people decide to do that, because you're right. We don't need all you need is enough. Even if enough people decide to do that, that dude still then has to decide to not be a dictator after that. The individual still has to decide. The power there for us to all be free, for liberty and freedom, is in the individual, even at the leadership standpoint.
Yep. History being any lesson, it's never gone that way before. Absolute power still corrupts absolutely, just like it does today, just like it did for thousands of years. There's nothing to change that. As much as it would be nice for it, but anyways, there's that.
Yes.
I don't know. Where do we want to spin off from that? Oh, let's see.
I like it.
I do like it. I love this. We are Americans. Want to fight for one. We fight for our Constitution. Amen. For the ideas instilled upon that Constitution.
Which is individual liberty and freedom.
That's right. You want to talk some shit about how stupid the Democrats are for wanting to vote for a guy that can't talk? I know we already made one president, but for God's sakes.
Yeah.
One of the most important races going on right now in the Senate, for the Senate, is taking place in, of all states, Pennsylvania. One of the states that were so key in the recent election. The ones that went against their constitution, if you remember right. I was very upset about that. And then their own Supreme Court was like, yeah, don't worry about that. But that was with the mail-in votes and whatnot.
Right.
But just because it required a constitutional amendment, they didn't do it, but the Republican Congress said it was okay anyways. But the current fight going on right now for Senate is hilariously between John Fetterman, who is I forget exactly where he came from. He's kind of a union rep, formerly of a Democratic blue-collar upbringing, if you will, who recently had a stroke right before the primaries really kicked into gear. And there was a lot of
the campaign.
Yeah, during the campaign, and it was really there was a lot of questions about why he was still running, if he was okay. There was a lot of time away from the campaign trail, so on and so forth. But he's running, and he's going up against none other than the great and powerful of formerly of Oprah Winfrey's
Mehmet Oz.
Mehmet Oz, yeah, he used to be on Oprah Winfrey show, right? That was like a thing, and then he had his own spin-off show,
The Doctors, and then he had his own show, I think.
So kind of a very very Trumpian background, if you will, right? Kind of a non-Hollywood.
He was a real
TV
doctor before
guy
that, I think.
at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, Mehmet Oz is going up against Fetterman. Fetterman, obviously Democrat, and Oz, being from New Jersey, somehow now identifies as a Pennsylvanian, and has won his primary and now is up and coming. And it's kind of a dead heat at this point. For some reason, Fetterman going out there, becoming more and more public recently after the stroke, and having a understandably very difficult time trying to string a single sentence together that is somewhat coherent. It's a common thing after you have a stroke. Your auditory systems are really screwed up. So he can hear things. He can hear certain things. He can read certain things. He can see certain things. But really, you need a good combination of all of those all at once to really understand what's going on. But then to be able to turn that around and speak in any kind of coherent fashion is very, very difficult. If you listen to any of his latest stuff, it's rather. I mean, we sometimes feel bad when Joe Biden talks. This is exponentially worse than that.
He sounds like he's having a really hard time recalling his words.
Yes,
like getting the whole sentence together.
Yeah, it's very words that obviously don't belong where they are, and it's here and there, and it's obviously in his mind and the thought process, but you can't string them together coherently, and which is obviously a side effect of the stroke.
Yeah,
right.
Because he was on Breaking Points before the stroke. Like, he's been a guest on their show before.
Oh, yes. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he has a segment, maybe when they were on the Hill. But he's been on there before because he's held some form of office before this.
Yes, I think he was. I think he's got a similar background
mayor,
to
So he was mayor of something.
Buttigieg, where he was like mayor.
So they had him on when he was mayor of whatever the fuck to talk about whatever the fuck. And that's what he was on there for. But yeah, he's been on.
He looks mean. He wears a Carhartt sweatshirt. He's a man of the people.
Rough looking dude.
He is a rough looking. He looks like he's a steel worker.
Yeah.
Actually, I have met multiple truck drivers that look like him. We'll put it that way. Literally, with the chin beard and the Carhartt sweatshirt.
Like
multiple truck drivers, like construction truck drivers, people that drive dump trucks. That bring shit to places that need shit.
Right.
But anyway,
bring shit to places that need shit.
Exactly. I need a load of crushed gravel. I get a load of crushed gravel from fucking Mr. John Fetterman. But he's a big, kind of a big union type of guy,
right?
And, so he's popular, and he's relatively popular in Pennsylvania. But the race has kind of come down neck and neck, if you will, and for somehow, Dr. Oz.
That's because
fucking
he's
riddle
making
me
those
this. He's a piece of shit.
Videos and stuff like that, It was supposed to be like a shoe-in for him, but then he's out there, and he's from New Jersey. He's not there. Like, he's not from there.
No, he's from Jersey.
No. And what Deborah says, isn't Oz one of those fake Trumpers? Yeah, he kind of
goes
back and forth,
He's Hollywood, but without being from Hollywood.
100%. Yeah, he's been on TV for way too long.
New York Hollywood, right? That's a different breed of television people. The New York TV people. Yeah. They're weird.
It's no good.
It's no good, but somehow or other,
It's no better than Dr. Phil.
Well, at least Dr. Phil's been on some of the podcasts I listen to. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
At least he can get on there and talk for 3 hours with Joe Rogan as like somewhat of a normal human.
Let's hear Mehmet Oz talk. Shit haulers, Deborah says.
Hey, yes. I bought my house from a shit hauler. Thank you very much. He's a very nice man.
He is the man for the criminal. John Fetterman.
Yeah. He's big into fucking Cassius Dale and shit like that. But
crime reform.
Yeah, but I don't know what's going on there. The real big story behind this is he has finally committed to doing a debate. Somehow, I guess the Oz folks, the Oz campaign, have been pushing his campaign really hard to try to commit to a debate, because at the end of the day, the Dr. Oz folks want him on stage on a TV showing people what it is they're voting for.
Yes.
They have held no punches when it comes to saying, hey, this guy has problems and is unhealthy and should not be, you should vote for me because I can at least be in the Senate and participate. But he has agreed to do a debate with certain precautions or certain caveats in place. I guess he's gonna have he's gonna have some form of like enhanced closed caption thing and
In front of him.
in front of him, and it's. I don't know. We're all gonna have to wait to see what the debate ultimately looks like, because I don't know about all the technology that's gonna need to be in place for that to happen. Because he recently just did a trip out to Long Island of all places to raise money and did an abortion rally out there and got a lot of fucking money after that. And
See, yeah, that's the shit that people should not like.
I know. I don't like that at all. But
And it's be like, if you're from Pennsylvania, why the fuck are you going to New York to raise money? Why?
Yeah.
Why does anybody from a different state care about? That's what I would like. Where's some type of rule, some type of fucking law?
Phil's from Texas.
Some type of
My bad.
some type of law.
I like
where
Dr. Phil.
you can't take money from out of state.
I recall a point.
Wow.
I recall a point. Let me just say this. I recall a point at which I tried to defend the concept of no out-of-state money to political elections.
Yeah.
And somebody convinced me out of it as a bad idea because they're all. And I think, honestly, it speaks to the point you made earlier in the show.
So we
that
all know I was a statist when we started this show. Okay.
It was a while ago, but I think it speaks to the point, your point, that this midterm is very national.
Yeah.
It doesn't all this shit, all this politics are all fucking national. The grassroots, the internet, all this enables. That's why Trump has all the goddamn money. And he's not running for another, probably a couple months after midterms. Then I'm sure he'll officially run.
Right.
But all this shit's national. So that's why he's out there doing it. But if you watch that speech, I don't know how you feel good voting for that guy, man.
Right.
I don't know how you want this guy to go represent your values, because he can't represent a sentence. And it's no fault of his own. Mind you, maybe some habits and whatnot, might have led to a stroke, but that's a different deal. But
like that,
yeah, but honestly, he's got a medical situation going on. He can't speak. But
it's fair to be concerned about that.
It's very fair.
Because this is for Senate, right?
Yes.
So he's gonna, realistically, he'll be saying things on the floor of the Senate chambers. He'll be
trying to
be like, in his job, that's what he's supposed to be doing, right? So he'll also be like deal making and having, backdoor conversations with people and potentially be on some type of committee. If he's on a foreign relations committee, he'll be talking to foreign leaders. And I'm not trying to talk shit or anything, but
this condition should improve over time.
it should. It should.
May not, but it should.
Yeah. So
He seems to be getting a little better every day.
I think
type
that
of
it's
thing,
a fair concern. I think Deborah's right. Whether or not she's making fun or not, I don't know. But Oz's campaign said some rough shit because they knew that they could
rough shit,
throw
man.
some shade at him.
Yeah. But also, they're not wrong.
Also, he's from fucking New York, Hollywood. So I'm not. He's from Hollywood, New York. So I'm not surprised.
The worst part is he's from Jersey, because he wouldn't even put up the fucking money to be from New York.
Yeah, he's from Hollywood, New Jersey, New York. So I'm not surprised.
If you're a New Yorker who lives in
that's what
Jersey,
they're-
we judge you. Okay, I used to live in New York for a long time. That's a whole thing. Noah Rothman on commentary. He doesn't ever claim that he's from New York, although he works in New York. He says he's from Jersey because he's not a fucking shill.
Yeah.
John Podhorntz, that crazy ass motherfucker, lives in New York. He is a true New Yorker. If you want to be a New Yorker, you got to put up with that bullshit and live in that shit. You can't take the easy way out and live in Jersey like Dr. Oz did.
Yeah.
Motherfucker's a shill. He just wants power and attention. I don't understand why he's doing this necessarily, except for maybe more power.
Yeah.
There's obviously money to be had because you're in Congress, so hashtag insider trading. But at this point, both of these people are both pawns in the political game that is federal government. Realistically, it almost doesn't matter who the fuck they are. It's just whether they're an R or a D. That's the only importance that's going on here. It's control over the Senate.
And that's the only thing when I'm thinking about, well, who would I rather, that's the only thing I could think is, well, like, we're kind of gunning for more Republicans. So that's really the only thing that I can say because this seems like a very, we can use 2016 like as a frame for all these elections going forward. It's very 2016. It's very the lesser of two evils. You have shit in one hand and shit in the other, and it's not going to be good either way. So that I agree isn't
It's bad.
rough.
It's bad.
I'm happy my choice is between Tiffany Smiley and
Patty Murray.
Yeah, and Patty
That's
Murray.
easy.
That's good.
I'm into that. Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
Like, I actually kind of like some of the things Tiffany Smiley says. I'm into that. I like her backstory. I like her. She seems to be a very supportive wife.
Patty Murray's
type
been
of deal.
senator for like 30 years. Legit.
She's
she's
been
like actual 30 years, not just me saying 30 years. Like
actual
actually
30 years. And was
like
it
longer than I've been alive.
Was
30
it
years.
her that, like,
That's not good.
back in the day when the Daily first started to like get on the scene? They did an interview with her, and she talked about her upcoming, and it all had to do with like her kid going to preschool and like trying to get into a co-op, and then the co-op fell apart, and so she needed to like get into politics so that they can get her little small town co-op running again, so her kids can go to preschool.
Right. Yeah.
And now look at her. That's 30 years later. You're a corrupt shill piece of shit.
Yeah, that's no good.
That's not good, man. And that, I don't know. But that leads me to talk about this fine gal, Caroline Leavitt.
I like that.
Came out of fucking nowhere, and
Field.
she just won her primary race. Kind of a late primary too. Just happened last week, I think. The youngest woman ever to be in the race, I believe, at least as far as New Hampshire goes. And if elected, she will definitely be the youngest person, I think, in the House of Representatives at 25 years old. First,
Yeah.
She's a Gen Zer. She, I believe, worked for the Trump administration at some point. But
That's what you said, right?
yeah.
She was some type of underling in
Yeah,
yeah.
somewhere in there. But I was when
You
I
just
was
like to look at her. Stop it.
Stop it. No, actually, no. I have very misogynistic views on what her outlooks are, and
that's not bad.
I have no futures in that. I'm a bad man. But I like the fact that there's some form of a right-wing Gen Zer getting some power. I like that. That's and when it comes to a state like New Hampshire,
Like when we had Shelby on the show.
like when we had Shelby on the show.
It was nice to see some
was
youth
very
that
nice.
was conservative,
Indeed.
not into the wokeness.
Exactly, because so many of them
Against the wokeness,
are.
actually.
Yeah, especially a woke white female. Like a Gen Z female, like of that age. There's so many that just go woke by default.
Yeah.
It's not good. But when I was driving around this morning and going to pick up some beers and shit for the show, and I was listening to The Verdict with Ted Cruz. That's a show that I intake on the semi-regular just because sometimes it's good to hear Ted Cruz talk about what he thinks and
Michael
how
Knowles,
far
right?
from how far from grace he's fallen. But he was talking about her. And apparently she got some decent GOP support, which I think really pushed her over the finish line and got her to win the primary here. And she is in she's in a neck and neck race at this point. They even, according to the polls at this point, they say it could go either way. So she legitimately very soon might be the youngest member of Congress ever to have been in the House
Ever?
at 25 years old. A 25-year-old female.
Ooh,
In
this
Congress.
is a picture of her shooting a 50 cal.
She's a gods and guns girl, man.
Okay.
I will say that
So
much.
Also, in
she's
these
one of those.
pictures, she's like
Way
massage-
hotter.
Yeah.
Way hotter. I know.
What?
That is not the good. That's not the best
No,
picture
They're
ever.
just trying to do her dirty. That's messed up.
I also think that as well. Yeah, I think this page right here, I pulled it up. This is the 538 latest polls type of deal. And she's from New Hampshire 1, which, if you look at the map in New Hampshire, is the greater part of New Hampshire, including the woke-ass city of Portsmouth, which I thought was interesting.
How old was she when she was working for the federal government?
I don't know,
that
man.
concerns me. She's like 21 years old working for the Fed.
I have a feeling that she was probably scooped up in this kind of Young Americans for Liberty, YAF type of deal. A lot of these young people that are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old that are getting involved in the Liberty movement, and a lot of them stemmed out into working for the Trump admin through one way or the other.
Just get her Wikipedia.
But yeah, she's up against a guy named Tom Pappas. Oh shit, I don't know if it's Tom Pappas. Tom Pappas is a comedian.
Yes,
But anyways, But as of right now, the latest poll is showing her at 42 and him at 47. And that is, especially when you factor in polling error, that's a fucking dead heat race right there. It's a toss-up. And part of me, misogyny aside, we'll put it this way, I'm very interested to see somebody, a new AOC, if you will, from the opposite side. I am interested to see a young, passionate individual that comes out from small town America to get into the House and to see what the fuck they can do up there. Because if there's anybody I think that can retain the, as Mayorkas would put it, their radical ideology, would be somebody that's younger, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of these people like Dan Crenshaw, they're part of the reason they fucking shill over to the establishment because they're old enough to go, yeah, I can make more money over there. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
She doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
No, she doesn't. She's fresh on the scene, dude.
Wow.
Fresh face.
Yeah, I was going to try and find out, like...
AOC's not going to be so fresh, so face no more.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm there. Can you do me a favor on your little laptop there?
Yep.
Pull up what district of the House Joe Kent is running in. I don't know what district that is.
I think it's District 3.
District 3. Let's pull it up because I want to see where he's at because he is also a MAGA Republican.
Yep.
Who
District
recently
3.
run a House race.
He's running against Marie Glusenkamp.
This is obviously not working out here. Cycle 2022. How about that, please? Thank you. Kent and Perez? Yeah, Glusenkamp Perez. There we go. 47-45. And I believe Joe Kent is one of the candidates the Democrats helped support, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
I think he got, you know, because it's always like third-party fucking shill company through Shell Corporation or whatever. But I believe he was somebody that got some of the funds to overthrow this person because the old establishment Republican, I believe, I think she was already in power, I thought.
Glusenkamp?
No. Is she Democratic candidate for office? Is she running or is she an establishment?
Oh, you mean before this?
Yeah. Is she in power now? Is she in the seat?
No, I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
the two are vying for the seat held by six-term incumbent Rep. Jamie Herrera Butler.
And Butler was a Republican.
Yeah.
And so they want Joe Kent to be the
Fill that
candidate so
spot.
they can get their Democrat in that spot.
He's a good-looking lad, too.
He
Let's
is a
just
good-looking
comment
lad.
on everybody's looks for the
Absolutely.
rest of the show.
Totally surface level fucking shit over here.
That's
Well,
all that
I
matters
mean-
to me, Joe Garrett. This is only what they look like.
And let's remember the only reason Justin Trudeau is in fucking power right now is because he's a goddamn pretty boy. How many motherfucking people voted for him originally because he was attractive? That is a real life deal, dude.
I wonder how many other people in Congress are there.
Lauren
good looking.
Boebert. Lauren Boebert. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, she don't have that much shit to say.
She talked for 5 minutes. I just want to shut the goddamn fucking computer off. But
yeah, one day we should just roll.
Marjorie
through
Taylor Greene at least has stuff to say. You know, you listen to her on Timcast and stuff like that. She's a normal human being.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like.
She's crazy like your mom. You know,
Yes.
not like your mom, like
your aunt.
colloquially,
You
like
know,
like
yeah,
your
like-
mom. You know,
yeah, she's your
crazy
crazy
like your
aunt.
mom.
But she's normal. She's
Yeah.
she's a nice lady. I like her. She's been on Timcast twice and she has some crazy shit to say sometimes, but she seems like a normal person, man.
Yeah.
Like, she seems a little out of her depth sometimes, but she seems normal, and that's why I like MTG. You know, the Jewish space lasers thing, like, there's a story behind that.
She would be fun
and
to
it
hang
doesn't
out with.
involve Jewish space lasers,
Yeah,
which is funny.
She would be fun to hang out with.
She would be fun to hang out
for
with.
sure.
I'd throw back a few beers.
If you went to her house, had a
Fuck,
barbecue
yeah.
or something, she would be a lot of fun to hang out with.
If I had a house party, I'd call her to come hang out because
Yeah.
she would be fun. You know what I mean? That would
call
be
her
a
and you
good
go,
time.
MTG.
Morgan would love.
That would be awesome.
Oh man, but yeah, Joe Kent. Yeah, I hope for the best for Joe Kent. You know, he's got a really tragic story too. That guy. He's his wife died in Iraq. They were both active
Right.
duty. She got killed in the line of combat. And
Yeah, it's
not.
fucked up.
It's fucked up, dude.
She
Yeah.
worked for like the CIA, right? Something like that.
I don't exactly remember.
Yeah, I think that she worked for the CIA.
Yeah, all I know is she got blown up doing some crazy shit for the state, but
Yeah.
you know, over there, and now I can't imagine what that would be like. And for him to be retelling that story all the time, it's fucking tragic, dude. But and I like what he says for the most part. He's a big MAGA guy. But we got to remember, a lot of the MAGA people are.
He's big on the border, right?
He's big on the border.
Yeah.
He's not, especially I think because he's in Washington. He's not that big into Stop the Steal.
Right.
Because let's be realistic, Stop the Steal doesn't get you votes.
No, not here.
It actually it dissuades votes, especially around here. But he's big on the border. He's big on America first. He wants people to be doing shit here. We have a lot. I mean, we're on the West Coast. I'm fairly sure we had during World War II, we had a big kind of Japanese internment camp situation here because of where we're at on the West Coast. Yes. It's a big deal. We have a lot of trade with the East.
Hemmed them all up.
Our Chinatown's popping. We got you.
Sid.
You want a good Sid. You go to Sid.
Go to the Chinatown Industrial District. Just avoid whatever that big fucking building is.
Just don't go there. Just don't go there. Where everybody's shooting up heroin. Don't go there.
It had a big acronym. But don't go there.
But it's a big deal here. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see what Joe Kent would do. He's down south, kind of the district that is the first in line after you cross the river from Oregon to Washington, I believe, that Vancouver area, which for him to get past the primary like that and to maintain any kind of popular support, I think is a big deal because there are a lot of Portlandites that live in Vancouver for one reason or another. Portland is very, very expensive, but Vancouver, it might have sales tax, but the houses are cheaper. You know what I mean?
The article says they're going to have a debate on the 15th.
Ooh.
This says candidates for Washington's 3rd Congressional District, Joe Kent and Marie Gluesenkamp Perez Washugel, that's where she's from, will face off in a debate held by the League of Women Voters on October 15th.
At least it's before early voting.
5 newspapers, the Chronicle, the Columbian, the Daily News, Ilwaco's Chinook Observer, and the Skamania County Pioneer are co-sponsors of the debate. Journalists from each of the news outlets will prepare questions for the candidates who will face off on the November 8 general election. Herrera Butler was elected in 2010 to represent the 3rd District, then re-elected 5 times before August 3rd primary defeat by Kent and Perez. 4 chapters of the League of Women Voters from Clark, Klickitat, Skamania, Lewis, and Cowlitz counties are debate hosts. The 3rd Congressional District serves a diverse region, wrote Legion of Women Voters. Diverse. Clark County Vice President Judy Stanton in a news release, and we are including journalists from throughout the district to make sure the candidate address issues that are of concern to all of their potential constituents.
I'm watching that shit.
A 101-year-old nonprofit league is well known for its history of hosting nonpartisan
You keep talking.
debates.
I'm going to go pee real quick.
Okay. Stanton noted the campaign for the 3rd District has drawn extensive attention, including... Oh, Jesus Christ. Are you okay?
Fine, yep. Good.
Including coverage by the New York Times and the Washington Post, in part because the new candidates hold distinctly differing positions on a number of issues, including abortion and legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election. And that's, again, speaks to the point of these elections being nationalized, right? The Washington Post and the New York Times are still covering this election. As always, because of our experience and our commitment to impartiality, the League is up to the task of conducting a nonpartisan event that will provide voters with important information about the candidates and their positions. Clark Vancouver Television, a government access cable channel, will handle production and air the debate live. TVW, Washington's Public Affairs Network, also has agreed to air the event. We also used to have a channel that UW hosted, University of Washington, that was a surgery channel, and you could watch knee replacements and all kinds of wild stuff just on public access television. It was one of the craziest things I have ever seen. Do you remember that?
I leave to go pee, and we're talking about public access television. Is that where they're hosting the debate?
They're hosting on TVW, yeah. And then I said we used to have. Do you remember?
Yes.
The UW surgery channel? Yeah.
That was okay.
Wild, right?
So I remember when TLC used to be nothing but surgeries. I remember that, but yeah, that was because it was from UW Medical School.
Yeah,
right?
So it was the top view. You saw everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Wild.
It was wild.
Yeah.
Now, there was a question I was going to ask you about Joe Kent.
Okay.
because the counties that his district is in, right, is because obviously because of fucking the way gerrymandering and stuff works out, it crosses multiple counties and not all of one county and all the other. But a lot of those counties were pretty heavily affected by the mandates and COVID, I think, which I think gave him a lot of power. I think that gave him a lot of populist support, if you will, because of Vancouver being there in the populous center of Vancouver, being that kind of like voting powerhouse with the numbers, but then surrounded, if you will, pull up a picture of the actual district, right? You'll see it. It's pretty vast, and that's why when they talk about a diverse voting district, it's pretty big, if I recall correctly. There's a lot of people there, and I think we're very included in that district, that area of COVID mandates, COVID lockdowns and shit like that, that were really, really, really opposed to that kind of shit.
Chunks of like 4 different counties.
Exactly. And a lot of those counties were like working class, blue collar fucking Americans who were more interested in going to work than being told to stay the fuck home.
Yakima County, the very edge of King County, I think.
Yeah. So, a lot of like, yeah, when you drive to like Mount Rainier or something like that, like you go through that area, and those are the people right now that still have Trump fucking 2020 flags flying high. I mean, you drive down there, they're still loud and proud. I mean, I think he's got a good plan. District 3?
This is Pierce County Council District 3. This is wrong.
Pierce County. That's yeah, you know. Pierce County's like Tacoma and shit, right? Pierce County, Gig Harbor,
Eatonville.
Is that fucking? Yeah. So I think he's got a chance though. 45, 47, considering how angry everybody is and how anti-establishment everybody is. I think he's got a good chance at getting in there, being involved in the House, and pretty soon that small group of that kind of make up the right-wing squad,
shit.
if you will.
Yeah, District 3, Pacific County, Lewis County, Wahkiakum County, Cowlitz, Clark, Skamania. No.
Wahkiakum.
No.
I'm gonna pull this up so that we can actually show everybody. I should have thought about that.
That's not Whatcom County. Get out of here. I know how to read. It's small. Cowlitz, Clark, Skamania, and Klickitat County. Yeah, District 3 is huge.
Oh yeah, that's a big boy.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Google. You just showed me on the thing, but you want to show me here?
Go to images, bro.
Oh, yeah, images. Google images. You gotta remember, I'm an old dude. I'm not quite Jamie, but yeah, if you look at that, man, that's a big.
Yeah, that
here
one
we go, right here.
Right, that's the one I looked at.
This one? Yeah. That's big shit right there.
Wahkiakum, bro. Wahkiakum. I told you, that's not Wahkiakum.
That's Wahkiakum.
So there you go.
Yeah, congratulations. You got it on like the 6th try.
Get out of here.
Notice I said it after you said it once. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's the one.
Last time you asked me how many counties we had, I was like, I don't know, like 15. And there's like 40 of them.
So many. So many. And there's our county right there. That stupid little fucking... We're the armpit of Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's talking to... Because you got... is that Grays Harbor? Or is that Grays Harbor? Shit.
Yeah, I think that's the top.
Yeah, because... I don't know.
No, I think that top one.
The top one is Grays Harbor. And then is that Ocean Shores and shit? Or is that Long Beach? I don't know. Either way. All I'm saying is that when it comes to the woke-ass part of the Pacific Northwest, it's only in small enclaves, like Seattle, a couple of the suburbs around that shit. But then when you get down south, there's like Vancouver and shit like that. So you get some real woke-ass people when you get close to Portland. But the vast majority of the state, including a lot of his district, I think will support him. And I think that's a good deal, man. I think that's a good deal for Washington. I think that's a good deal for the federal government as far as that illegitimate body is concerned, and this election in the midterms. I think that's a good deal. So I'm hoping for the best. He seems like a nice guy. He goes out there, he does events for like 4 fucking people sometimes. You see that shit on Twitter, and it gets I kind of get sad, but I like that.
You go, Joe Kent.
I like that in a representative who will show up. He's the band that shows up to the place where there's no fans. Because
you really like Joe Kent, huh?
I like his spirit. We'll put it that way. I like his spirit.
I love how pro-democracy you are today.
I gotta be, dude, because if we don't do this at this point, I am. I'm gonna lose it, man. You watch me. After Republicans sweep the midterms, nothing but black pills, bro. That's what's happening. I gotta put all my chips in this basket. Okay, and then let's tie this bad boy off with something I think is relatively important when it comes to this giant, big, loving thing we have called democracy. We have this process called debating, and it's important for these people to be these people that want to be in the elected representative body, right? If they want to sit there and pretend like they actually represent the people that elected them, it is important for them to get on a public stage and debate the issues at hand at the time to the voters that they're asking for their vote, right? So they can get in power, then become corrupt and make millions of dollars.
Right.
Now, my big issue right here. This is a big one because we've been following this for a long time. The people that are watching this, obviously, the people in the chat, you came from IRL, so you know who Carrie Lake is. But Carrie Lake being the former local news anchor from Arizona, right? Very popular in the area. She got on this political campaign after leaving the corporate press and started to run for governor. And she became very popular. She adopted the Stop the Steal message. She really hit on the border because Arizona's a border state and they are fucked by immigration, something we talked about in part 2 a lot. She's massively huge on school choice. I think in part due to the influence of showing up on Timcast and getting a little bit different perspectives on things. I think it's a beautiful thing. Okay. The fact that she's willing to come on a podcast for the alt media like Timcast, I think speaks fucking volumes to who this woman is. She's interested in hearing different perspectives, understanding them, intaking them, digesting them, and realizing whether or not they might benefit her state if she were to become governor. Now, the person that she is running against is a gal named Katie Hobbs, who is essentially the wife of a rich-ass, really influential person from Arizona, who has never been in politics.
Mean.
She is mean.
She is mean.
Yeah. She's not. She's never. Let's put it this way: if Carrie Lake is a populist candidate, Katie Hobbs is the antithesis, the opposite of a populist candidate. She is an establishment shill.
Okay.
Period. And by shill, I mean she's never really been involved in this shit before. She's just got backing.
Okay.
But the big news behind this one and the talking point behind this one is she has declined to debate Carrie Lake now that Carrie Lake has won the primary. This is a problem for me. Doug Ducey, the current governor, is not going to be reelected. And so it is going to be one of these two people. It's going to be either Katie Hobbs or it's going to be Carrie Lake. I am very uncomfortable with the fact that Carrie Lake is refusing to debate. And essentially what she's asking for at this point, she says she doesn't want to debate. What she wants to do...
Katie Hobbs or
Katie Hobbs.
Okay.
Katie Hobbs is refusing to debate. So let me just read this article real quick. This is from U.S. News. Democrat Katie Hobbs, campaign for Arizona governor, has ended negotiations with the state commissioning the state commission overseeing candidates' debates to come to an agreement that would see her face off with Republican Carrie Lake. Phoenix Democrat Carrie Hobbs campaign announced Sunday that she would not debate Republican Carrie Lake as the two battle for the Arizona governor's office, calling off any negotiations with Lake and the state commissioning overseeing debates. How exactly do you expect to be elected governor if you do not commit to a debate with your opposition? If you cannot get onto the public square through television or radio, I don't care how you do it, but if you refuse to debate your opponent, I have a serious problem with that. I have a serious problem with you trying to run for an elected office strictly on promises made through a campaign never willing to put them up for scrutiny against your opponent.
Face
and
any
now,
type of questioning or pushback or anything at all.
Exactly. And whereas when you compare that to her opponent, Carrie Lake, who is willing to come on an internet podcast that is watched by
multiple. Because she was on Michael Malice.
She was indeed.
Yeah.
And she's on Steven Crowder, which, can I just say?
She was on Steven Crowder.
She was indeed. And Steven Crowder, if you recall, if you watch that episode,
she was hot, right?
He is like uncomfortably. It's uncomfortable to watch him fawn over Carrie Lake. He sat there. Here, let me change the camera real quick before I take the pose. He did the whole interview like that. He was like, "Oh my god, this lady, she's so, oh my god." He fawned over her like
That's
nothing,
weird.
which is weird because she's attractive, but she's not. I mean, we also have 25-year-old New Hampshire candidate, but
let's see it.
She's Carrie Lake. I mean, I like her. I like her ideas for the most part, other than when she really gets on Stop the Steal shit. But
she's pretty.
She is pretty. She's pretty. I mean, she used to be a news anchor for Arizona for a very long time.
What's the name of the Levitt? That woman's cuter than this one.
You ageist motherfucker. Why does she say she won't do it?
Yeah, what's her reason for not?
So she doesn't necessarily give a reason. What she does, she's proposing an alternative where she is, and I apologize, I should have got there before this, but she is proposing an alternative where she will have an interview with the moderator individually. She wants to have a moderator-run interview. And she hasn't given a particular reason. The reasoning, if you were to ask me, is Carrie Lake is a very seasoned media veteran. Carrie Lake would wipe the fucking floor with Katie Hobbs.
Right.
Katie Hobbs is not somebody that has been in politics. She hasn't been in the public view for a long time. Nobody fucking knows her. So if you were to ask me, that's the reason why. It's because she knows she will tank the fucking vote if she gets in front of a camera with Carrie Lake. I think that the establishment narrative is that Carrie Lake is a psycho, stop the steal, ultra mega candidate, so
Certainly
it's not worth the TV time. But as we know, like from Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you follow just Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter, you'll think she's kind of a wacko.
Yeah.
If you hear exactly what you hear from the establishment corporate press,
Social media
she's crazy.
isn't real life.
But if you listen to MTG and somebody like Timcast, where she can get on there for 2 hours and be herself, she's a normal goddamn human being. Carrie Lake is a very normal person. I did not like her on the Crowder podcast, but that's aside, because Crowder's show is something totally different. I got problems with Crowder, but
Crowder is
Crowder. But I like Carrie. I like where she's at. I generally believe that she believes what she says. She's a genuine person. I mean, yeah, she's good people. Whereas, I think generally speaking, yeah, if she was getting on the debate space with Carrie, yeah, she's hardcore with Donald Trump. Yeah, they want to be the same. She's a MAGA candidate. That's where it's at.
I'm here for it.
But it is what it is. This is the reality we have to deal in. Like I said, what's going on? You fucking with it? There we go. Okay. Yeah, one of your straps get loose.
It's
You
no
little
big
bouncies. All right, I'll get new mics next. That's fine.
No.
We got the new cameras.
That's
All
right. They look good.
Fucking bougie, pinky
Carrie's
out,
mother,
motherfucker.
27. I like it, man.
She is, man, and
I like it.
And you would only know that.
I promise I care about more than looks, Deborah. It's not.
That's all right.
But I'm a 20-something. What am I
You're an establishment, white, picket fence, two-child family, all right? I don't got no kids. I'm married, but I don't got no kids. I can be the misogynist in this podcast. That's
I'll
fine.
just leave it to you.
I don't know. She's
Looks
all
like
right.
Larry Elder. I wonder if Larry Elder did an interview with her. I like Larry Elder. For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. I like Larry.
I don't love Larry Elder. I like Larry Elder.
He needs to not be in California is what he needs to do.
He has to get out of there.
They
don't want
motherfuckers
him
gotta
there.
get out, man. Nobody wants
When they're
him there.
calling you the black face of white supremacy, you should leave.
Yeah.
They don't want you there. It's a good time to go.
Yeah. It is a really good time to go for Larry Elder. I mean, but he can't because he's got a radio show. He's got the whole. He's old school. You know, that's where he's at. But Kerry Lake, on the other hand, I'm not a betting man. I got multiple hundreds of dollars on football this year, but I'm not a betting man. But if I was, I would put my money on Kerry Lake because she's fucking fantastic. I like Crowder, and Dave is awesome. You mean Dave Landau? Because I'm not going to lie. If Dave Landau wasn't on Crowder's show, I don't know if I'd be a regular anymore.
I can't read the whole thing because USA Today wants me to subscribe, but
I subscribed to New York Times again this morning because I needed an article.
Echoing Trump, Arizona governor candidate Kerry Lake calls immigrants rapists.
No, she doesn't, first of all. But
the media might have a field day with this one, but I'm going to just repeat something President Trump said a long time ago, and it got him in a lot of trouble. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, and they are rapists, and that's who's coming across our border.
I believe that's like an actual quote from her.
That's
from him.
Fact. It's a quote from her.
Yeah. But I believe that's his exact words.
His exact
they
words.
Are bringing drugs, they're bringing this, and they are rapists.
Yeah. So, and when he said it, if I remember correctly, he was talking pretty specifically about the people that were bringing crime here. This is one of those things like the Charlottesville thing that's been debunked by the right over and over and over and over again. That's like, well, that's not exactly what he said, you know? And with the Charlottesville thing, like the corporate media is always clipping it, you know, right after he says, well, they should be totally disavowed, but there were good people on both sides. They're like, let's just take just the second half of that part. And that's like what really matters, you know?
Brings me to my fucking failed comedian Donald Trump head. Fucking
Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin. Her point to the fact that Democrats are trying to start a civil war, because that's not correct. They're trying to stoke division in this situation. That is not correct. I heard a story the other day on one of the podcasts we listen to, generally speaking, but the cartels generally are in charge of most of the illegal migration across the border, right? Okay. And some of these underage women coming across have been they come across and they take rape tests.
Yeah.
And it's dark. It's dark, but there's like DNA from like over a dozen people. Okay, you do the math on that.
Right.
And I think that has to do mostly with the cartel members involved, obviously, in that situation, but like it doesn't. When you say that, like when Kerry Lake says that they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, and that's because these are people that
is doing that
because they're on the border, and these people are doing that shit, man. And when motherfuckers in Martha's Vineyard hear that shit, they think, oh, you're being you're a fucking bunch of racists and shit.
But
it's not good, but that's not
one
wrong.
Of those things, yeah.
Yes, and these people are. It's bad, man, and Kerry Lake wants to stop that shit. So I'm down with the sickness, man. I'm down with the Kerry Lake. Fucking shout out. Oh, god damn it.
You sure?
Never mind. We won't shout that out. That's fine. I don't want to go there. But yeah, there's I almost wish I was from Arizona. So
Kerry Lake rips Katie Hobbs for refusing to debate. She knows she will get roasted on stage. Kerry Lake, GOP nominee for governor of Arizona, shares her experience on campaign trail and strategy for dealing with mainstream media on Tucker Carlson tonight. Well, she seems to be getting away with it, but she's getting raked over the coals even by the mainstream media. But it tells you how little she thinks of her staff and her supporters thinks about her. They will rather let her just get trashed right now in the media. They show for the debate because they know that she has no policy to stand on. She's got a terrible back. When you look back when she was a legislator, she voted against a border wall. She voted against a virtual border wall. She voted against funding border security, but yet
That's like a direct
this is
thing,
from it's gotta be.
That's like a
their assholes real clear politics. They're like, we're just gonna make her look stupid.
Yeah.
But yet
do that to Joe Biden, for God's sakes.
But yet she did.
They did it to Trump too.
Yet she did make legislation to make sure we start teaching sex education in kindergarten. Her priorities are whacked, and the people of Arizona are really turned off by the fact that she won't show up for debate. It's a job interview. The people of Arizona are the hiring manager, and we're showing up for a job interview. You don't get the job if you don't show up for the interview, but she knows that she'll get roasted on stage because of her background. Yeah, why would they write it like that?
They do that because that's like a direct quote from her while she's on stage, like ad-lib.
She's
blah,
on
blah,
Tucker
blah.
Carlson.
Yeah, and so she's like just talking, and you know, some people fumble over their words and stuff like that, so they'll transcribe exactly what she said to try to make her look like a fucking idiot.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, which whereas in the inverse, they change what Joe Biden says to make it coherent so you can actually read it as a sentence. But that's dark, man. Welcome to the darkness, bro. This is the midterms, man. Everything's at fucking...
She was on cable news for years, but let's make it look like she doesn't know how to be on television.
Well, if it goes against the establishment,
Jeez,
we got to take her down, man. I don't like it. I don't like none of this. I don't like defending democracy. First of all, because I'm not a fan myself, but when it comes to the preservation of me having the ability to proselytize anarchism, you know, according to Mayorkas, I am enemy number one. I'm first in the gulag, so I'm trying to defer that as long as possible. And I would much prefer somebody, you know, we get these MAGA Republicans. God, I never thought I'd be saying that shit. I would much prefer these MAGA Republicans get in office and we remove this disgusting authoritarianism. We can defer that as long as possible. That's what I would prefer. And somebody like Carrie Lake, somebody like our fuck, I forget her name now. Kath, the Gen Z gal. Caroline Levitt. I'd like her to be in power. I'd like, you know, all these people to that are generally more pro-America, generally more open to free speech. I'd very much like them to be in power and to stop the onslaught of authoritarianism, or at least slow it the fuck down a little bit. I would very much like that when it comes to the midterms. And that's where I'm at with midterms.
Okay.
We haven't talked about inflation, but inflation's bad. We'll put it that way.
It's not good.
It's real bad, and it's not going to get any better. So there's that. That's about. I mean, we can go into the details, but it's fucking terrible, and it's going to continue to be terrible. Done.
No, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to wrap the segment up or not. But.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we can close this out here, and we'll come back and we'll do the grab bag.
Yep.
A bunch of, you know.
Elon Musk and Twitter, man.
Yep. Got a lot of stuff going on. So.
Another dark segment.
Yep. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Colin here from Salt the Streets. Thank you for watching today's edition of Salty Shorts. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to check out the full episode right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this with all your friends. And you, too, can become a spreader of the message of liberty. Thanks.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this